My name is Mark Hodgkins. I am the CFO of Trackwise Designs plc. Trackwise are a UK-based manufacturer of specialist products using printed circuit technology. The company was formed in 1989. We recently acquired Stevenage Circuits, and that was formed in 1972. The two established businesses have just over 100 employees, in total about 50 on each site. We manufacture a full range of advanced printed circuits ranging from our innovative improved harness technology, which is our globally unique patented technology, through to a full range of advanced PCBs. These boards or flexes are used by a wide customer base in a wide range of markets. Our business strategy is to build Trackwise into the preeminent interconnect partner manufacturer to the world's leading innovators, with IHT integral to those companies across our chosen markets of electric vehicles, aerospace, medical and defence. We also have a focus on telecoms via our legacy business prior to our focusing on IHT. I will go on to describe these market opportunities and our progress towards achieving the vision in greater detail. The strategy is based upon the sustained and sustainable foundation of the supply of RF radio frequency products into the 4G and 5G telecom network infrastructure. This foundation has been broadened and strengthened by a recent acquisition of Stevenage Circuits. Our IPO and further fundraising in March has enabled the growth of our capability and capacity to reach full roll-to-roll IHT, and by focusing on our chosen markets, with this investment, we aim to deliver shareholder value growth. First of all, I'll talk a little bit about our legacy business, just to give some background, and that's what we term our RF business. Our first foray into long PCB design and manufacture was in 1995. Our product, which is as a tier 2 manufacturer, forms part of the antenna on a mobile telephone base station, which you see regularly as you drive around the country. The image shown here on the extreme right is our board that we make, which goes into the antenna box, which you can see on the mast in the photograph. A PCB is used because it is very repeatable, and therefore it's very reliable for the telecoms company. And it's our PCB which defines the antenna performance, so it's our fault. The product is not really a conventional printed circuit board, but is rather a printed antenna. Our customers have included Vodafone and Sprint, to name but two. However, the RF division manufactures not just mobile phone infrastructure, it also serves customers in a multiple different RF applications. We make shipborne radar aircraft guidance, we make debugging devices, and we have high-powered CO2 lasers amongst some of our products that we make. Whilst this is a fairly narrow specialism, that specialism supports the margins of the business. Trackwise is recognised as an expert in this field and has enjoyed long-term relationships with key customers. However, the product is globalised and relatively commoditised. It remains profitable, and it's a base for our business. Whilst there remains a good deal of controversy around 5G equipment, there is no doubt that the rollout of 5G will come, and we expect this will continue to underpin the RF business. Part of the rationale to acquire Stevenage Circuits was to transfer the RF production from Tewkesbury to Stevenage, thereby freeing up capacity at Tewkesbury for IHT production. This transfer is on the way. Now a little bit about IHT, which is short for Improved Harness Technology. Flexible printed circuits were developed as a weight and space-saving alternative to conventional wire harness in the 1950s, and the proven benefits and the results of them have become a multi-billion-dollar global industry. Due to supply chain limits, the vast majority of the world's PCB manufacturers are limited to a size of 2 feet or 610 millimeters in length, Consequently, the benefits of the flexible PCB have largely been confined to inside a box or equipment, for example, your mobile phone or your computer, or inside an avionics box. Trackwise's innovation has changed all of this. With IHT, it is the customer's requirement only that determines the size of the product. IHT therefore opens up the application of proven benefits of flex PCBs to wing level harnesses, to fuselage level harnesses, to name but two applications previously beyond the capability of a PCB. Within aircraft, which we see as one of the main benefits of the IHT harness, the benefits of flex as a wire harness replacement has a weight saving of between 60 and 80%. The modern aircraft contains many hundreds of kilometers of wire, which is likely to grow, and the weight stroke energy carbon saving potential is clear. Sustainability is a major driver in the aircraft industry, which I'll talk about a bit later. UK aviation is committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050, and electrification of aviation is a major opportunity for IHT. You will see at the bottom of the slide, Trackwise has filed a patent in all the main airframe manufacturing locations. We have achieved pretty good progress in achieving these grants or patents. Only Brazil remains outstanding as in process. IHT's technology and a look at our competition and the protection of our IP. The biggest challenge to IHT is that there'll be no change, particularly for a conservative industry like the mainstream aviation. Aircraft have been wired in fundamentally the same manner since an electrical subsystem was first installed in an aircraft. The power of the incumbent in such an industry is significant. That is why the advent of all electric aviation and new transport business models are so important. And with regard to PCB competitors, as I have mentioned before, the vast majority of the world's manufacturers are limited in size to 600 millilitres or less. There are a very limited number of suppliers worldwide who offer long flex, and even fewer that offer large multi-layer flex. But only Trackwise offers length unlimited multi-layer flexible harnesses, and this is the essence of the Trackwise patent. Since Trackwise first filed a patent application, the research and development of all aspects of the know-how surrounding the manufacturing of the long flex has continued and is continuing. And this know-how is the key barrier to entry and therefore to sustainability. This is reflected in a fairly large size of accumulated intellectual assets on our balance sheet. If you've looked at our accounts, you'll see we have a significant portion there. This investment is the know-how. We believe this is the future of our company. Other competing interconnect technologies do exist, flat flexible cables, and even additive layer printing, for example. These are strong in some areas, but do not offer the full range of proven benefits that can be achieved by the use of a long flex PCB. IHT is globally unique in being able to offer unlimited length, multi-layer, flexible interconnectors. Since our IPO, we have invested in enhancing our capability and capacity to deliver IHT. That investment is notably in 3 pieces of key manufacturing equipment, all delivering an integrated roll-to-roll manufacturing capability. The image on the bottom is a vertical continuous plating line. We think that this is the only kind in Europe. Then on the top right, there's a roll-to-roll laser drill, and not shown here is a direct imaging machine, laser direct imaging machine. So some of the highlights of last year, of 2019. So the growth in IHT customers continues. I'll talk a bit about the numbers in a while. We increased our IHT revenues in 2019 by just under 55%, and that continues to grow. Our IHT technical capabilities have advanced, customer interest grows, and series production is now evident. Medical appliances have emerged as a second sector for us, and I will talk about that shortly. During the year, we signed a collaboration agreement with GKN Aerospace, the world's leading multi-technology tier 1 aerospace supplier. We now have the full capacity for roll-to-roll manufacture, and I should say that in 2019 RF had a challenging time, which I'll talk about when we look at our results. So in 2019, our revenues were 2.9 million, which was down on last year and was somewhat disappointing. IHT revenues were better than last year and were 55% ahead. Our revenues for RF were depleted by three particular things. We have a large customer in Ireland that supplies Sprint T-Mobile, and the Sprint T-Mobile merger and its delay caused our customer to have significant delays in delivery. That depressed our revenues in the second half of 2019. You won't be surprised that during the year, the various on and off of Brexit caused us some disarray. Some of our customers in Europe ceased buying from us for a significant part of the year, and not all of them have yet returned. And inevitably, with our exposure to telecoms, the difficulties between the United States and China and the problems with Huawei have meant that that's impacted on us. Some of our customers are getting product from China for less than we can buy the material for. So the recent changes with regard to Huawei are welcome to us. Need to talk about cash a little bit because it's really important at the moment. At the end of last year, we had £567,000 of cash, but net debt of £300,000. We had no bank debt at the end of May, which following the placing in March, we had 4.1 million of cash and 2.44 million of net cash. I should just point out by the end of June, we had cash of 3.2 million. As indicated in March, we had a placing and raised 5.8 million and 5.2 million net. And of that, we spent 2 million on the acquisition of Stevenage Circuits. However, we inherited £600,000 worth of cash when we completed the acquisition. So our net cash cost was 1.4 million. You won't be surprised to know that during the completion of our accounts and their audit, our auditors took a very strong look at our forecasts, as they have for everybody this year. And I can tell you that they concurred that our forecasts were robust enough for them to sign off on a going concern basis. 2020 year to date, we've had a significant order from our EV OEM manufacturer. We've completed the acquisition of Stevenage Circuits and we raised some equity. With regard to COVID, we operated since the lockdown as normal, adhering to government guidance where appropriate. We have had impacts on our suppliers that has delayed some capital expenditure installation, but that is now behind us. We suffered from one of our customers having shut down as a consequence of COVID, and that has delayed some revenues, which is pushed to the second half. Overall, we think that our revenues for the year will be lower than we originally forecast, but we think we can maintain our forecasts with regard to the profit numbers we put out at the start of the year, because we've been able to replace the revenues that we have discarded with higher margin business. I want to talk briefly about the three key areas for us. So electrical vehicle manufacture is a really big opportunity for us. In 2020, we've scaled up production and we've got all the equipment we need now to go into full production. We got an order from our EV customer in early February, and we're hoping for another one shortly. The acquisition of Stevenage Circuits has enabled us to devote all our capacity at Ashvale in Tewkesbury to the manufacture of IHT product for our EV customer. We see considerable further potential for demand-led scale-up in the future. As I mentioned, during the year, medical became a factor for us because we got approached by a number of medical companies to make catheter parts, and we do that by making a very thin, only about 3 millimeter wide, flexible PCB, which goes inside the catheter, which is used for transferring data and power from the computer to the end of the catheter, which disappears into someone's body some way, shape or other. The revenues from their range of products that we've been asked to quote for is significant. And we think that the GKN collaboration is very important for us. The aviation sector is the natural home for IHT. And we are working and have been working with GKN for some years on their leading edge de-icing equipment, which we hope we will start to see revenues from in 2021, possibly early 2022. So the acquisition of Stevenage Circuits Limited. It's a short flex and rigid and flexi-rigid manufacturer. It's established in 1972, and it has a very high level of technical capability. We saw this as a major attraction. We've been making flex for about 4 or 5 years now. They've been making it for 30 years. And whilst they can't make what we can in terms of length, they know an awful lot about how the various materials perform, and we thought that was useful. They also have a 5,000 square metre facility, and they had spare capacity. They're in similar markets to us. They have low customer concentration, and most of their customers are in the UK. Most of our customers are not in the UK. In the year to the 30th of September 2019, they had revenues of 6.5 million and an EBITDA of £356,000. You bear in mind that our net cash purchase price was 1.4 million. I think you recognise that's a reasonably good price on a cash basis. The benefits for us is the transfer of the business, from Tewkesbury to Stevenage. Tewkesbury is now a dedicated IHT plant. We partly mitigate our single point of failure risk, having only one site, and we think the sales operation will be enhanced. They have got a huge number of customers, over 600 on the list, a great number of which would be interested in buying our IHT product. So our outlook is that inevitably the global outlook for the economic global outlook looks uncertain for everybody, I think. And we are cautious about the impact on customer investment decisions, which could impact our performance in the second half. What we're asking people to buy is something new, and when uncertainty strikes, that sort of thing often gets put back. Revenues in the remainder of the second half, however, look reasonably okay. Hard to predict. Stevenage is doing well. Huge number of IHT opportunities, and RF is flat. We have the manufacturing infrastructure necessary now to ramp up IHT. We're integrating SCL well. RF will remain a low growth revenue stream, but as I said, we've got benefits from 5G coming, particularly if Huawei are prevented from taking part. We have a strong financial position, and we're making good progress against our strategy. Finally, I'd just like to make you aware of some of the people that we rely on for. We're pleased to have lots of very good people as investors, and these are our principal investors. And so I'd like to invite you to ask me any questions.
We've got quite a few questions here, so forgive me if I jump from kind of different subject to different subject.
Okay.
So, in no particular order, how do your prices compare to competitors? Yeah, that's a good starting point.
Okay, so in EV, we inevitably have to compete with the existing product. So we find that we are competitive, certainly in EV, and in medical, we know we're competitive. We have already passed that test. We've been told that our prices are competitive with the incumbent technology. With aerospace, it's a little different because we're actually supplying something that nobody else can supply, and we haven't really tested that pricing yet. But we're confident that with the investment that we've made, 2 or 3 of these investments we've made in machinery are capable of increasing our productivity in one case by nearly 600%. So we've got a long way to go with margins in terms of getting our margins up, but we've got a lot of production efficiencies to gain. So we think we can meet the challenges from a pricing point of view.
And what do you think will be your biggest market for IHT in 3 years' time? And that's by, I guess, client type, not by geography.
That's a very good question. If I can answer it sort of backwards, in the longer run, we believe aerospace will be our biggest market, but that is quite a way out now, not least because of what's happened in the last 6 months. In 3 years' time, I would suspect our biggest customer will be, and the biggest market will be the medical market.
Really? And a question that came to my mind when you're talking through the different customer groups, with aviation, what about military and thinking drones or any other military applications?
They are all potential customers. Yeah, they are, and we have contacts with those companies. But I don't think in terms of value, they will be the most important. I think the most important is likely to be medical.
And how could the demise of Huawei in the UK or in the States as well, I guess, contribute to enhanced earnings over the next 3 years?
So we have suffered from Huawei because they compete very aggressively with Ericsson, who are a customer of ours. And so Ericsson are forced to either A, press the price down on us or supply from China. We see the removal of the pressure on Ericsson will be good for demand, so good for volume and good for pricing. But volume is almost as important as pricing, because once we can get our machinery working 24/7, then our operating margins improve dramatically. So that's why we think 5G could be useful, a useful contributor to earnings in the future. Having said that, we don't think there'll be any real change for 2 or 3 years yet. So the benefit is a little way out.
And on capacity, and I think this comes into the acquisition as well. Now you've separated the sites and you can dedicate one plant to IHT. Can you give an indication what sort of capacity you're running at? And have you got a long way to go, how are you with capacity with your current equipment?
We have more than sufficient capacity at Ashvale for IHT growth, certainly for the next 18 months, if not 2 years. But it rather depends on how much additional growth we can generate in that time. But we certainly have no immediate capacity constraints at all. At SCL, we have the opportunity to go to double shifting, so we can certainly get another 50% out of SCL before we need to double shift, and then we can double it effectively. So we are comfortable with our capacity, certainly through to the back end of 2021, early 2022, and if we're pleasantly surprised by bigger orders, then we'll have to think again.
Are there or were there any cost savings involved in that acquisition?
Yes, there were. We had some significant cost savings. We believe we'll get a couple of 100,000 out in this year, and the challenge after that is to improve operational efficiencies to get further savings. They'll take a bit longer to achieve because you've got to change people's behaviours, but we've had some success in getting some easy wins since we took over in April.
And questions here about alternative technologies, and with IHT, are there any other emerging technologies that are coming in to compete, or alternatives that clients or customers can use? And how do you monitor progress and new things coming into the market, or do you have to kind of keep an eye on everything?
Yes, you try and you do a regular sweep. You attend trade shows. You do a lot of reading, become aware. Our patent attorneys send us stuff that they've come across, and there are other technologies that can do some of the things that we can do. I mean, fiber optics can do some of what we can do, but as I said in my talk, I think the flexible PCB, the IHT solution, is one that covers a great many questions and provides a range of solutions, whereas the competitors are more focused on specific problems.
And a question here on the EV, are you able to disclose who the the manufacturer is, or is that?
Sadly, I'm not able to do that, no, but if you are very diligent, you can find out.
Okay. Couple of questions here from the same question. I think you covered one perhaps. What are the future investment requirements and how do you treat investment spend in the books?
So if it's plant and equipment, we obviously capitalise that. Any work that we do on developing IHT and our know-how, we also capitalise that. We amortise it over 20 years, which was chosen because that was the average sort of life of a contract in aerospace. So we are adding at the moment to our knowledge base and therefore to our IP on the balance sheet, but we're also taking a charge to the P&L account each year. I expect that to continue for the next year or so, and then I think it will flip. And I think as our revenues increase, the amortization charge will start to pick up, so the larger amortization charge, but also more of our engineers' time will be focused on production rather than developing production.
And question about the kind of 5G, and it's kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek here with some people's protests and demonstrations around 5G masts. Does that have anything that's serious? Do you think it's going to have any impact? Is that going to affect kind of planning or infrastructure rollout? Do you think that could ever gain a critical momentum?
I don't think we really have experienced anything like that at the present time. I suppose it has to be possible, but it's a problem more for the telecoms companies themselves. But of course, that will affect how they buy from us. At the moment, we've not seen any impact of that.
Okay. And I'll say one final question here, and I think that's probably us, Mark. And this is: have you centralised the accounts department and thus saving costs on one of the sites?
Almost. So that will be completed by the end of September. We've re-equipped Stevenage completely. We've streamlined the staff. We've connected it to our head office here in Tewkesbury. They will continue to run the accounting function to the end of September, which is a quarter end, by which time it will transfer to Tewkesbury.
Lovely. Mark, thank you very much indeed.